A 16-year-old kid bent a ball into the top corner from 25 yards against France in a European Championship semi-final. The whole stadium went silent. He had just scored one of the greatest goals in the history of the tournament at an age when most kids his age are still in school, still in the academy, nowhere near a senior international stage. And Lionel Messi, the greatest player who has ever lived, said something about this teenager that should make every defender on the planet nervous. We'll get to that. But first, you need to understand where Lamine Yamal actually came from, because scoring a worldie against France at 16 is just the tip of the iceberg. The story starts in Rocafonda, a neighborhood in Mataró, just outside Barcelona, that El País once described as forgotten, isolated, and stigmatized. Not the kind of place that produces global superstars. Just a working-class corner of Catalonia where kids kick a ball around in the street and dream about something bigger. Lamine Yamal was born July 13, 2007. His father, Munir, is from Larache in Morocco. His mother, Sheila, is from Bata in Equatorial Guinea. Spanish immigrants raising a kid in a postcode most of Spain had never heard of 08304. Remember that number. Because to this day, every time Lamine Yamal scores, he makes a gesture with his hands. 3, 0, 4, the last digits of the postcode of the neighborhood that raised him. That detail right there is the entire career in one sentence. A kid who never forgot where he came from, even when the whole world started watching. He started playing at 4 years old, a local club called La Torreta in Granollers. And here's the thing about a 4-year-old who's better than everyone around him, it doesn't mean anything yet. Spain is full of talented kids. The country has produced more world-class footballers than almost anywhere on earth. Being the best kid in Rocafonda answers absolutely nothing about whether you can play at the level that actually matters. But then Barcelona noticed. In 2014, at 7 years old, Lamine Yamal joined La Masia, the most famous youth academy in world football. The factory that produced Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, and a small Argentine kid who arrived from across the ocean named Lionel Messi. And here's the problem with being a prodigy at La Masia. The graveyard of the next Messi is enormous. Ansu Fati was the next Messi. Munir was the next Messi. Bojan was the next Messi. Every few years, La Masia produces a teenager who gets the label, and almost every single one of them buckles under the weight of it. Being brilliant in the youth teams means nothing. The men you have to beat to prove yourself aren't playing in academy games. They're in the Champions League. They're at the World Cup. Something has to force the question. There's one detail about how Yamal plays that tells you everything about why the big moments keep going his way. The right flank. The cut inside onto his left foot. His entire career, defenders have known exactly what he's going to do. Drift wide, take you one-on-one, then chop inside and curl it. They know it's coming. And they still can't stop it. Michel Salgado, a man who shared a dressing room watching Messi destroy Real Madrid, put it simply, Yamal has that 1-on-3 quality. At 17, what he's achieved is crazy. It's not random. It's been drilled into him since he was a child at La Torreta. And on April 29, 2023, that instinct gets its first real test. Lamine Yamal makes his debut for the Barcelona first team against Real Betis, aged 15 years and 291 days. The youngest player to ever represent Barcelona, breaking a record that had stood since 1922. Let that sink in. A record over 100 years old, broken by a kid who still had to go to school the next morning. Then in October 2023, he scores against Granada, the youngest goal scorer in the history of La Liga. The football world is starting to pay attention now, the way it always does when a teenager runs hot and everyone quietly wonders whether it'll last. Then came the summer of 2024. Euro 2024. Lamine Yamal is 16 years old, the youngest player in the history of the entire tournament. Spain reached the semi-final. The opponent, France. Kylian Mbappé. One of the best teams on earth. Spain go a goal down inside the first 10 minutes. And then a 16-year-old picks the ball up on the right, 25 yards out, drifts inside like he's done 10,000 times in the street in Rocafonda. and bends it off the post and into the top corner to level the game. A goal so good grown men in the stands just held their heads. Minutes later, Spain are in front. They win. They go to the final. The very next day, July 13th, Lamine Yamal turns 17, and the day after that, Spain beat England in the final. So at 17 years and 1 day old, he becomes the youngest footballer to ever win a major international trophy, named Young Player of the Tournament. The world isn't just paying attention now, it's standing up. But not everything goes to plan. And this is the part the highlight reels skip over. In December 2025, voices around the game started warning that the Messi comparisons were doing damage. Former Barcelona midfielder Gaizka Mendieta said the comparisons weren't helping Yamal, that putting that weight on an 18-year-old was unnecessary pressure that had already broken players before him. Then, in April 2026, against Celta Vigo, Yamal tore his left hamstring scoring a penalty, grade 2 tear. It ruled him out for the rest of the domestic season. And the bigger blow had already landed months earlier. He finished second in the 2025 Ballon d'Or, behind Ousmane Dembélé. The kid who'd beaten every record in front of him finally lost something he wanted. The question is whether a teenager who's been winning his whole life has the mindset to take that and use it. Drop it in the comments right now. At 18 years old, would you rather carry the pressure of being called the next Messi by the entire planet, or just be left alone to play your game in peace? Because Lamine Yamal chose the spotlight every single time, and I want to know what you'd have done. Here's how he answered the doubt. He called the Ballon d'Or defeat a lesson. He said plainly that he doesn't want to be Messi, he wants to be Lamine Yamal. And ahead of the 2026 season, Barcelona handed him the number 10 shirt, Messi's old number. He scored on the opening day wearing it. And on February 28, 2026, against Villarreal, he scored the first hat-trick of his career in a 4-1 win. No longer a kid living in someone else's blueprint, the first Lamine Yamal. Now let me tell you about the man at the top of the mountain, because you need to understand who Lionel Messi is before you understand what he said. 8 Ballon d'Ors, a World Cup, the most goals in the history of the sport. And then, in an interview, watching this teenager tear through European football, Messi said it out loud. He said, "It's impressive what Lamine Yamal is showing, that he's already a European champion with Spain at 17, that he's still in the middle of a growth process and will keep adding to his game just like Messi himself did." And then the line that matters most, that Yamal is already one of the best players in the world. That wasn't a throwaway compliment. That was the greatest player who ever lived looking at a teenager and acknowledging the threat by name. And the reason that should make every defender uncomfortable is what Yamal said back. He pointed straight at Messi as his example, the best in history, and said he hopes he can follow in his footsteps. Not imitate, follow. And then go further. So do the math. It's June 2026. The World Cup is being played across North America. Lamine Yamal was named in Spain's squad. He's coming back from that hamstring injury. A doubt for the opening games, but once he's fit, the whole tournament is waiting to see what a fully healthy 18-year-old version of him can do on the biggest stage there is. "It gives me goosebumps to think I'll be part of it," he said. He's 18 years old. He has 3 La Liga titles, a European Championship, 2 Copa trophies, a Ballon d'Or runner-up finish, and the number 10 shirt of the greatest club player in history. And he says his football isn't about a million records or a million goals, it's about people enjoying watching him play. A teenager who has beaten almost every record put in front of him, telling you honestly that he's only just getting started. Messi won his first World Cup at 35, after 4 heartbreaks. Lamine Yamal is playing in his first one at 18. So here's what I want you to tell me in the comments. The 2030 World Cup. Lamine Yamal will be 22 right in his prime, on European soil, with Spain chasing back-to-back finals. Does he lift the trophy? And does he win the Ballon d'Or not once, but enough times to actually challenge Messi's 8 and become the greatest footballer who has ever lived? Drop it below. Every comment gets read.